Yes. Good morning, people. This is Grove in the park. Um, the sun is a little high today. I'm just trying to run out the sun a little bit, and so I don't start sweating and stuff. Boy, it's a very hot day. But hot day or cold day, life goes on, and the way it's going on, it's got to go on better than what it is because you know we powerless people. We caught in the middle of all this power grabbing, and we are the victims of it. It's we are the victims of all this power domination thing around us, and it's not that we're going to pick up no gun and go fight against nobody, but it's a shame to see how we can't even see that. So we acting like we're living in some kind of in some kind of truth situation. We don't understand that it's not no truth situation. It's not nothing to do with no Jesus and trying to make sure everybody go to heaven. This is just a domination thing, and the people that dominate you tell you what kind of life you're gonna have, and so that's the life you have. You ain't getting up going to church every day by accident, and you ain't getting up going to this and going to that, all that stuff by accident. These are the stuff that they organize for you to go to. And if you don't go to them and you start trying to organize your own stuff that they're not in control of, you're going to be in a problem with them. And so that's why black folks can't make no progress, because everything we do, it's not self-approved. We have to go somewhere else for approval. So as long as we got to seek somebody else's approval, they would never let us get over the hump, because as soon as they see we're getting close, they're going to move the post. And so you're always stuck in a situation where you're chasing the impossible dream, because you're chasing a dream that somebody's not going to let you have. So you know what I mean. As long as you can realize that that you're being dominated, then you could work with the situation. But it's one thing when you're born in it and you don't even realize it, and you're gung ho with it. It's a shame. Because if nobody ain't taught you better, you're gung ho with it. You don't realize it's all set up. You know what I mean? It's black folks, man. I said we ain't never enjoyed no good life ever since they changed the time from BC to AD. We've been dead in the water ever since, because that's when that's when Europeans started taking over. That's when the Greek people started taking over, and that's when everything started being European. So once they conquered the time, they knew it was just they can conquer everything else. Because if you can tell people what time it is, you can tell them anything else. So once they conquered the time and turned it into AC and BC, black folks, they never had no life after that, because the gods that we used to worship, Osiris and Isis and all those things, became null and void, because and the first god before Jesus Christ was ever before Jesus Christ was even ever thought of. The first god, once the Europeans started conquering Egypt, the first god that they introduced was the god Serapis. That's the first god. And if the Romans didn't come along and conquer the Greeks, we would still be worshipping the god Serapis, most likely. Because once the Romans conquer and the Emperor Constantine decided that he wanted Christianity, then the worship of Serapis had to change. And so from Serapis to Zeus, and then to Cezus, and then what we have is, because a lot of people didn't even realize 2,000 years ago when they said Jesus was alive, there was no J in no alphabet or in no speech language. There was not, the J sound wasn't current in any language 2,000 years ago. So there was no way for nobody to be named Jesus 2,000 years ago, because a J wasn't invented until 600 years ago. You know what I mean? That's right around the time when they decided that is it Michelangelo or which one of them big painters was going to decide what kind of image they was going to give this Jesus that they came up with. So he painted a picture of the what I understood to be one of his cousins to represent the image of Jesus, which was no actual man. It was just a progression of when we got conquered, how the gods keep changing. And so once the god changed from Serapis to Zeus to Jesus when Constantine took over, not when Constantine took over, when Michelangelo and the Pope decided that this is what was going to happen, and so once they decided that this is what's going to happen, then they changed it from Zeus to Jesus, because now they had a J in the English language, and so the J is only 600 years old. So there is no way a man 2,000 years old could be named Jesus, because the J is only 600 years old. So you know what I mean. As long as you can see these things, you'll be all right. You know what I mean. They painted the picture of Jesus around the 1500s, and then King James came along and decided he's going to commission a Bible in the early 1600s. So by 1611, this Bible was done. So the Bible that they write is not a Bible of Jesus walking around with 12 disciples. It's a story that evolved in Roman council meetings. And so once they evolved the story, because you know, back in the day, people weren't, you know what I mean, people weren't information savvy, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And back they didn't want you to be information savvy. They want you to accept whatever the church said. So that's why a lot of the times people were ignorant. People couldn't even read. So it's easy to manipulate people with books when they can't even read to verify what you're saying. So you know what I mean? The whole world becomes indoctrinated on a false doctrine, and it's not just black people. It's just I am black, man, and I decide that I'm going to talk for black people because I see how it affects black people, me being a black man. How it affects everybody else, I see that too, but I don't care about that. I mean, I care about it, but you know what I mean, I don't have the energy to save the whole world, you know what I'm saying? I'm just looking out to show Rastafari as the King of Kings and the light that's going to guide us out of this trap that they put us in, you know? So it's just a way to show you that the whole thing is a deception, and we have to get back to the real thing, you know. So it's nothing to do with you know what I mean, because we keep going down the wrong road trying to go to heaven, and there ain't no heaven. It's just this living hell they put us in. So you know what I mean, the only heaven we're going to have is the heaven we build for ourselves, and we're not going to build it out here. It's got to be Africa, because nobody else wants Africa but black people. You know what I mean? I tell you, man, you know, when you study your history, you know, it's like there is not going to be any black prosperity out here to talk about. Because if they wanted black prosperity out here, they already had it when we had Haiti. See, Haiti, people don't know, Haiti used to be the worst, the most prosperous country out here in the Western Hemisphere. Haiti was making more money than the law allowed. So Haiti was the most prosperous country, and it's just because of the revolution that broke out in France, why revolution broke out in Haiti too, and the Haitian people decided, man, this slavery thing can't work, because they see all this prosperity around them and they're responsible for it. So this slavery thing can't work for us, and since there's revolution going on, they joined the revolution. And so they joined the revolution and they chased their European dominators out of Haiti. You know what I mean? And as far as I read history, that's the first time black folks ever fought for anything and won. When they fought and won the war for the Haitian Revolution. You know what I mean? And so once black people win in a war for Haitian Revolution in the richest country in the Western Hemisphere, the Europeans couldn't let that stand, because that's a bad example for the rest of us black folks who want to progress. You know what I mean? If Haiti going to progress, we're going to see that, and we're going to want that too. So now Haiti went from the most progressive, richest country in the Western Hemisphere to now the poorest, because the Europeans got together and decided they're going to put every embargo that they could on Haiti. Plus, because the European plantation owners got chased out, they're going to make Haiti pay all them plantation owners for kicking them out the country. So all those insurance all those plantations that got lost due to the Haitian Revolution, the European countries get together and decided they're going to punish Haiti for that, and so that's why Haiti is so poor. They're going to be paying the Europeans back forever for that, for chasing them out the country and taking over their plantations without compensation. So they feel like the revolution went on, the Haitian people kicked them out of the country, they had to leave their plantations behind, so now they're going to use their political power to punish the Haitian people to pay them back. You know what I mean? When the Haitian people is just defending themselves against slavery. That's all they was doing, defending themselves against slavery and the wicked domination that comes down on them. Now they got to pay for it double over with more wickedness. So it's just when you see black people trying to prosper, they, you know what I mean, they don't want that, because they don't want you to prosper unless it's under their wing. You know what I mean? As long as you're prospering under their wing, you can go on prosper, because they got you controlled and they know you ain't doing nothing that's going to be too progressive for yourself, because every time you try, you got to go through them and they're going to tell you no. So, you know what I mean? As long as you got to go through European powers, you're going to always be subject to whatever they want you to be subject to. So Haiti is the poorest country, not because of the will of the people in the country, but because of the will of the European people to make them that way. So, you know what I mean? It's just, black prosperity is not something that's encouraged in this part of the world, unless it's going to be black prosperity dominated. You know what I mean? It's just like a couple days ago, I'm listening to the radio, not the radio, the TV, and they're showing me about the NAACP. I mean, I already know the NAACP ain't shit really, but then I come to find out that there is a white girl in charge of the NAACP. Now how can you lead a struggle when you don't know nothing about the struggle? You ain't never been a part of the struggle. You ain't never felt the struggle. Ain't we got enough intelligence to lead our own organizations, man? What the hell are we doing every time we have a black organization? There's a white person at the head of it. You know? Boy, how we gonna progress that way, man? Everything we do it lost. We don't do it with no real purpose. You know, we're doing it for the show. You know what I'm saying? And as long as we're doing it for the show, it's not, you know what I mean? Might as well stay home, because, you know what I mean? It takes a revolution to make a solution. You know what I mean? And the revolution got to start in your mind. And it ain't got to be no, I mean, bloody revolution always there, you know, but it's not going to be no bloody revolution, because nobody want Africa but us. So we don't have to fight for Africa. You know what I mean? It's like my buddy tell me, you know, they give us such a negative impression of ourselves and a negative impression of Africa that black people, we don't even want to go there. It's like my buddy says, you know what I mean? He's going from the West Indies to go to Africa. And from he leave the West Indies, the big jet got nothing but black people on it going to Europe. But you see, from he get to Europe to go to Africa, he the only black person on that plane. Because from Europe to Africa, the plane is full of Europeans. And what are they going to Africa for? Money. They're going to invest. It's a money thing over there for them. So the plane is full of them going over there for money. You know what I mean? We as black folks, we let them go over there and get everything and control everything, and we stay over here subject to what they're doing, because they give us a negative about us, a negative impression about ourselves, and a negative impression of our whole land, Africa. So we don't want nothing to do with Africa as black people now, because, you know what I mean, we got such a negative impression of everything black. And they did that on purpose, because that's the only hope for us. You know what I mean? How you going to progress You're not going to progress living in nobody's house. I'm telling you, man, I lived in people's house before. And as soon as they see you getting comfortable in their house, you're in a problem. I'm going to tell you right now. You can't be comfortable in nobody's house. You got to get your own house if you want to be comfortable. But as soon as they see you put up your feet, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? You got to put up your feet when you got your own house. So, as long as we in these people's house, we're not going to be able to put up our feet. You know what I mean? It's just domination and, you know what I mean, work and church and just organized life to where you ain't got time to even think about what's happening to me. You know what I mean? It's like this poor lady, you know. She is a good old lady, man. Worked all her life, you know what I'm saying? And decides she didn't decide she gonna retire. She retires. You know what I mean? And it's time for her to have her fun now because she done give all her life to this job. But instead of retiring and enjoying her life now, she retired this week, next week she's sick. She in the hospital, she back and forth. That's it for her. You know what I mean? A week after retirement and now she's sick. And so all that planning of traveling and all that now, because now she got to stay close to her doctor. And we just don't have no life, man. When it's time to have our fun, the tears come on down our face because, you know, if people done deceived us into a life that's not working for us, and we can't get out of it, and so you know what I mean. We can't get out of it the way they're trying to tell us to get out of it. So it's only Rastafari we got now to give us the ideas of what we need to get out of it. Because all these other ideas that they gave us is not working. It's not working, and it's too hard when you got to do something somebody else's way. Because they're just going to make it, it's going to keep escalating harder and harder the closer you get. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? I tell you, you know, it's a tough thing, you know, because we're so naive as black people that we don't really understand the competition for survival and the competition that they have for life. Because, you know, we got stolen out of Africa, out of a land of prosperity. So we never really had to fight and dig for anything. And so we don't have that fight and dig spirit, but we better find it. Because these people not playing. See, you know what I mean? We can't find that we did nothing to people to make people treat us this way. Except that they want to rob us and steal us and take advantage of us. You know what I mean? I can't see in history where black people did nothing to Europeans. It's just that we were just some sitting ducks, and they took advantage of us because, you know, we had it too good. And so it's like we exchange places, you know what I mean? You all got it too good and you all don't know what to do with it, so we're going to exchange places with you. No, you doing what we say, or we got it good and you do what we say because you had all this stuff and you didn't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? And that's just how, you know what I mean? Because most people got no idea how to own land until Europeans told us how to own land. Most people had the idea that the land we belong to the land don't belong to us, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like when you die you're going to go back to the land, and you could never own the land because the land is going to be here forever. So how could you own something that you're not going to be here for? So, but the Europeans found a way to own land, you know what I mean? So once they found a way to own land, you know what I mean, they changed the whole landscape of how people are going to live their life now, because it's always a money thing. You know, it's always a money thing, and controlling. You know what I mean? It's like how everybody's so spoiled now. It's like we can't even leave the fishes in the ocean. We're so used to dominating everything. It's like we go in the ocean and we want to tell the shark what to do. You know what I mean? And we can't dominate the shark in the ocean. We can't do nothing about nothing that's going on in the ocean. And so it makes big news because that's something that we cannot dominate. So everything that we cannot dominate becomes big news because, you know, it's we're so used to dominating everything, and we don't feel good unless we can dominate it. So, you know what I mean? But for the dominated, it's not a good position for the dominated to be in because, you know what I mean? It's like, now you got to go live in a nutshell. That's not even your nutshell. It's some nutshell that it's mostly foreign shit up in there for you. A whole new system of life you have to learn to survive in that nutshell. You know? So you have to find your original self if you want to get out of your false identity. You know? And your original self is you're going to find if you follow your ancestral history, your African history. That's where you're going to find your original self at. And so when you find your original self, you're happy now because you're not living a false life, you know? You know what I mean? Even when you go through things in life, it's real because you know you know where you stand. You know what I'm saying? It's not, you're not living on a false identity. So everything you're going through is false because you're not even being yourself. You know what I mean? It's a hell of a thing when you're not even being yourself and you get caught up in a mess, you know, because it really eats you up because, like, man, I wasn't even being myself, man. I was doing this because of them because of them people right there. And now if I had followed my mind, if I had followed myself, I wouldn't be in this mess. But through I'm following people, I'm scared to be myself, I'm in this mess, and my mind had already told me not to do this stuff right here because this is not me. And so whenever you're doing something not being yourself and something bad happens in there, it really messes you up because you wasn't even being yourself. No, if you're being yourself and shit happens, you're like, you don't care because you're being yourself and whatever happens, happens there. But when you're not being yourself, boy, it's a hard life to live when you're not being yourself and stuff happens. So, you know what I mean? We just gonna be Rasta and go through it like that because that's who we are. You know what I mean? And we can't change. You know what I mean? The leopard could never change his spots because even shave him off, you can still see the spots. You know what I'm saying? So as long as you're leopard, you're leopard. And so ain't no difference, ain't no need you go paint yourself as something else because somebody else looking at you. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of the times, them people, they're not going to respect you anyway because they see you flim-flammy. You know what I'm saying? And as long as you're flim-flammy, people don't respect you. They look at you on that flim-flam level. And you know what I mean? They deal with you on that flim-flam level. So, I'm just, you know what I mean? Black people, we got to get real and we got to be ourselves. And so once we could be ourselves, people going to respect us more because we know who we are now. You know what I mean? We're not following in some false post-slavery legacy. You know, we're following in our own identity now as Rasta. And so, you know what I mean? We're loving ourselves more. And so we're doing for ourselves more. And so, you know what I mean? It's just positivity from a Rastafari point of view. You know what I mean? Jah love, man. It's getting hot. See you all later.